Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Back to the TARDIS podcast, the podcast where we take a look at every single episode of the 2005 revival of BBC's Doctor Who. I'm Geoff.
I am Skylar.
And I am the tangible homoerotic tension between the Doctor and the Master.
And as you may have guessed from that intro, today we are discussing Series 3, episodes 11, 12, and 13, Utopia, The Sound of Drums, and Last of the Time Lords. RTD technically considers Utopia its own story, but honestly, I feel like if you could take it as its own story, it's just going to come off so much lesser, and it ties in close enough that I just treat it as one big three-part finale. So yeah, this was notable for reintroducing the character of the Master in modern who is definitely looking a lot less cum snake than the last time we saw him.
Oh god. Oh.
That was technically the last. That I can't believe that managed to not only be the last time that, like, not only is that the last time that he appeared in, like, on screen in Doctor Who media, that was the last time we saw him because of when we covered the TV movie.
Yeah.
It all worked out perfectly. So yeah. And it also brought back our boy Captain Jack Harkness, who, as the part of the reason why I was like super gung ho about making sure that Torchwood Series 1 was done by this episode, is because literally it goes right into the start of Utopia.
Yeah.
Just literally.
He's literally like running out
yeah.
the door at the end of the Torchwood episode, and he's running towards the
End of days, and then you see him here, and he's running across the fucking plaza, being super melodramatic.
Doctor.
You may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like.
So yeah, and the Doctor and Martha are obviously back in Cardiff to refuel. The Doctor even mentions that the rift has been opened recently, which is like a, yeah, I'm sure glad you weren't there, Doctor. That episode was trash. And
I
then
didn't
obviously
even pick
Jack
up on
runs
that.
at
I don't
them.
know why I didn't catch that.
Yeah, and obviously Jack ends up like fucking like running. You know, I had a thought earlier of that one, like, what was it? An episode a while ago where it was a Rose episode where you were like yelling at her for like, that is not what running for your life looks like. And I'm thinking like, this is what running for your life looks like.
Yeah, he is.
Like, he is gunning it.
Very much so,
And the TARDIS does not like the fact that Jack is there, so it tries to leave, and he somehow manages to grab onto it before it dematerializes and hold onto it throughout the vortex. And as has been mentioned on our Discord multiple times, it was really, really disappointing that the opening credits don't have a little CGI Jack holding on to the TARDIS.
Oh, that would have been wonderful. Oh my god.
That would have been so funny. If that was a Moffat thing, they would have... If it was a Moffat era episode, they would have done that. Because remember that one time in Series 7 where they were like, yeah, let's slap a different color filter over the intro and have a custom logo for every episode.
Oh, I forgot they did that. Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah, they did. And immediately after they land in the year 100 trillion, which is supposed to be the year that is the heat death of the universe, we are immediately introduced to the worst fucking part of this episode, the future kind. I can't believe, like, the future kind feel like we need some way to introduce a ticking clock and tension into this episode because we can't have Derek Jacobi go sicko mode until the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, they're jobbers. Let's be real. They're absolute jobbers.
They're like they're not even like they're fucking Mad Max villains. They're not even like Doctor, like, I feel like the only time that they would appear would maybe be like late 7, when they just had no budget. And I'd be a little bit more favorable there because like they had so much less to work with, but like, come on.
It felt not up to snuff, and I really thought they shouldn't have gone the whole like they're a different species or they're devolved. It's like, just say they're like a cultural offset and they purposefully sharpen their teeth. Like,
Also, yeah, and like there's definitely some kind of like vaguely, I have to say, like almost vaguely racist
Yeah.
part about this that's like, no bueno.
Yeah, it's basically just like, oh, the primitive savages who are like mean to the intelligent humans. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not the best.
Um so yeah, and then they go into the base, and we're introduced to another thing of like, I do have to say, I unironically, until I found out that they were charging $30 for it, I was going to buy that first War Master Big Finish box set because Derek Jacobi is pretty fucking Kino.
Yeah, he's pretty good in this episode, honestly.
Like I can't believe that they like he does such a good job, and I think that's part of I think that's part of why he was written, because I think partially, see, there's sort of like the change where like the master changes to reflect kind of the new face of the show and the new look of the show, but also because I don't think John Simm could have, well, I mean, to be fair, John Simm was in Life on Mars, which is like a completely different role, but I don't know if he'd be able to pull off that feeling of like Derek Jacobi in less amount of time manages to pull off the Chameleon Arch stuff as well as David Tennant did in a two-parter.
Yeah, he's
And like,
really good.
you can very much get senses of like, yes, the master's intellect is here and his ability to make plans, but it's so buried under everything else.
yeah,
For sure.
Jacobi does something very difficult as an actor, which is to like just do completely different sides of the human emotional spectrum. But looking back and knowing what I know about who the master is as a character, it's like it's so great that we see this rather brilliant side that like that we know the Doctor for, but is just less common in the master because his schemes are usually like super evil.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that come out.
Yeah, and in general, I like those interpretations of the master, and part of the other reason why I'm so interested in the War Master is something that he mentions, that Saxon mentions in Last of the Time Lords, where he just he booked it. He was like, no, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And that's such an interesting, like it's in character, but it's an interesting thing for the master to just tactically, to actually realize, I am in way over my head on this, I'm getting the fuck out.
And it sort of drives home again like the horror of the Time Lord. It's sort of just how powerful everything was there.
Because I can't think of a case, maybe outside of Missy, and even then I'm not even sure, where they're like a case where just straight up the master has been like, nope, this isn't working, I'm out of here. Like even like pre like plots being foiled or anything, just like, nope, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, what could be
But yeah,
what could be so horrible that someone like him wouldn't want to face it?
That even the master's like, I can't. No, even the master's like, no, I can't do anything with this, bro. Nope.
And then the fact that the doctor is the one who did it, who just who destroyed everything. That again drives home. Just like, he's a big deal.
But yeah, and I will say this is also, I guess, a preemptive kudos to Michelle Gomez, who manages to do that same thing without a fucking chameleon arch. Further proving why Missy is the best master. Don't at me.
She's really good, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess we'll talk more about War Master when that reveal actually happens. But yeah. So yeah. And I do like there's this very clear, like, the Doctor and Yana both kind of recognize there's definitely something there where they both realize, like, hey, this is someone I can play off of like someone who's actually an equal almost, even though Yana is very, very humble and has very low self-esteem, which is another interesting thing because you never see that from the Master.
Yeah, and
even Missy is not humble in any sense.
Okay, what's interesting for me to that is because, earlier in the season you have the Doctor versus John Smith and the differences between those two. But, like, I feel like Yana is way more different from the Master than John Smith is from the Doctor.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I think that what that goes back to is sort of, what the Master's backstory is, where almost all of him is, like, something that is unique to Time Lords, because all of his stuff comes from, like, gazing into the God, I can't remember its name now, the vortex, and so all of it goes back to that, and so you take that away, schism. And he's actually, like, pretty okay, so it's just it's just an interesting thing of, like, sort of comparing their natures, like how much of it is their Time Lord part.
And the other interesting thing is Yana has still lived his entire life with the drums. And he's still a very sweet person.
I think that makes sense, and I don't know if it's intended this way, and I don't think they've ever explicitly said this, but I've always had the impression that the drums slowly got worse over the course of his life, and that, like, the definitely. Master, like, on the Academy days when he was actually friends with the Doctor was, like, pretty okay, and then just over time, and then
it makes sense. It makes sense that it makes sense that it escalates so much with Simm, since Simm is the incarnation that the entire purpose of the drums is for.
Yeah, exactly. Plus,
and it also makes me kind of glad that they
war.
drop it afterwards, because Missy, and because, like, Missy, I don't know if they ever mention the drums with Missy, or, like, if they're still there or not. And then obviously Dwan has his own reasons to be completely psychotic.
Yeah, I've always assumed that they were taken out, because even, and this is jumping way ahead, but Simm by 12 seems like he's still got that energy, but it's not influenced by that anymore. So I've always assumed that was gone after End of Time. But, they served their purpose here, and it sucks to see Yana suffering like that and just know from the beginning that this man is going to die, and what replaces him is going to go against everything he ever thought for or believed, which, as tragic as John Smith's story is, at least the Doctor is, like, somewhat aligned morally with him. Kind of, but yeah, there's a lot of tragedy in this episode that's not really focused on, but it's there, and Derek Jacobi, nothing but praise for him.
And then the "you are not alone" reveal. Yana, it's "you are not alone."
Yeah, I said this in text chat. I guess we're probably going to be a lot less organized with Utopia, because really the only thing that happens in the plot in Utopia is, like, vague, though you don't know it's set up for Toclafane and Master. That's really all that happens that's important. But yeah, no, I said in chat, Jack has to be the face of Bo, because otherwise it's the only way this plot works.
Yeah. And then, you know, he literally calls himself the face of Bo at the end. I told you this.
Yeah.
I told you this when we talked about it, like, I don't know when.
No, we always knew that. People were just never sure if it was, like, a one-off joke from RTD or if he actually meant it. And he did actually mean it. But it's also, like, upon thinking about it, like, yes, no, this is the only way that the fucking plot works.
Also, speaking of plot, I guess, since it's inevitable, this three-parter, in my opinion, works well when there's character focus, and that's, I don't know, the rest is interesting, but like a lot of stuff happens because
there's
plot.
a lot of like, why are you doing this? Yeah, why are you doing, like, why are you being this stupid? Like, I guess skipping ahead a little bit, why the fuck did you think a perception filter was going to work on the Master? Are you why?
Yeah, the first instance of that for me.
The perception filter trick, yeah, that'll work. That'll work on, like, humans, like, who haven't been, like, trained to look for it. But that's not gonna fucking work on a Time Lord.
Yeah, it first came up for me in Utopia when it's just, there's that camera shot to this random refugee, and it's a future kind, and I was just like, okay, that doesn't make sense. How did they get by? Did they sneak in? It's like
the teeth scan.
This is so much easier.
They literally even are like, yes, they scan for, they make sure that your teeth are, like, good. So, like, did they just, like, not sharp? Well, actually, no, that doesn't make, how did you manage to get away with the teeth
that's,
thing?
You know, the future kind are still kind of a dumb, unnecessary thing, but if you made them just, like, a subset of human culture on this planet, and then, like, had it so that they purposefully sharpened their teeth, and they figured, hey, the only way we can do this is if we, like, unsharpen someone's teeth. Like, it would still be dumb, but it's just, like, it's one of those things where it's like, ooh, infiltration, conflict, and I'm just sitting there like, this is the least interesting part of the whole episode.
Oh yeah, and also I will say the other thing that I kind of realized when I rewatched this three-parter is, like, man, Jack's just kind of there because, like, ooh, Jack's back.
Yeah, he doesn't do too much. I mean, besides
beside, like, the token, like, we need, like, the action guy or the person who can't die to get past this one obstacle that would otherwise be lethal.
Yeah, that's really all they use him for.
I do like the dynamic of 10, Jack, and Martha, though. I think it's a much better dynamic than if it had been, like, 10, Jack, and Rose. Because, like, I love all three of them, but both Jack and Rose kind of work better.
Rose would be like,
with
Rose would be like, Doctor, why are you being so handsy with that young 30-something man?
Rose, get with the homoeroticism program. But yeah, it's a different thing. But even though I like Jack better with 9, I think I can say that definitively. He still has nice chemistry with 10.
Plus at least like 3 good tier episodes of Torchwood have Martha in them in series 2. So, like, that dynamic gets expanded on. Man, I wish she joined the cast full-time in Children of Earth. I really fucking wish. God damn it. Thinking back on it, like, her episodes with the crew are so fucking good. Anyways, we'll get there in, like, a couple weeks. But yeah, no, and the other thing is because they have to explain like, because they have to make sure that like Jack is caught up on the Rose situation. Like, that entire scene, I just feel like super uncomfortable about how like Martha is like the one friend who doesn't have like nearly as much of the history. So they're like they're just kind of like sat like she's just kind of like there, and I feel like super uncomfortable because like we've already talked about how like Martha is kind of the rebound companion and how much that sucks for her. And admittedly, in the end, she's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that I'm not going to take your bullshit anymore. But no, it's like, man, I would be really uncomfortable in that situation. Like, especially the line where she's like, oh, she was blonde. And I'm like, just thinking like, man, it really sucks to be you right now.
Oh god. I mean, that's basically her for the entire season. Like, everyone just keeps, everything reminds her that she's not Rose. It like really sucks. She and Jack even have that moment later where it's like, you ever have someone and they don't even notice you, and they both go like, yeah. That was a good little moment.
And they both they're both talking about the same person
too.
Yeah.
I mean, joke's on all of them, because Martha does the most, like, arguably one of the most badass things a new companion has done, and survives a whole year under a master regime.
Yeah, Martha is the most, like, the only companion who gets anywhere near as close to being as baller as Martha. And we're not talking about Clara here because that's debatable and some people don't like the way that Clara got taken. Would be Bill, who managed to hold on to her psyche after being cyberfied. And yeah, maybe like very distantly Donna. Maybe very distant.
Rory the Roman, probably.
Oh yeah, Rory. True. I forgot that. You ever forget that Rory was a thing?
Honestly, yeah.
True.
I'm gonna be real with y'all. Like, fucking, like most of like Amy and Rory, just in general, most of 11 is like a blank void in my memory because it was where like shit just got like bland. But yeah. So yeah, introduced we already talked about Doctor and Yana getting introduced because of course we're super out of order on this, just kind of going for a general discussion because this episode doesn't have that much plot. The weird radiation room where someone is literally told like 5 times like get the fuck out of there, and it's just like, okay, that dude just disintegrated because you wanted to have a dude disintegrate to like be like the big spookum of the episode, and so you could get Jack to get in and do something while like after taking like his shirt off. Like that.
I'll accept it.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the better scenes and conversations in the episode, though. Where we finally know what's wrong with Jack, if you haven't been watching this show for years.
Yeah,
if we finally figured it out.
If you didn't watch Torchwood.
He vored the time vortex.
Technically, Rose vored the time vortex.
Okay, but then she spit it back up into his mouth.
Thanks, Avery.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate that one.
Am I wrong?
No.
Rule 34's forums are going to have fun with that one.
But yeah, no, and then we get the thing where he mentions time travel and pulls out the watch, and Martha immediately is like, oh shit. Um,
Yeah. The tension and the music buildup is like impeccably done. Even knowing it was coming, I was just like, oh god, what's happening?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah. Also, when he looks at the watch, they play a sound clip of Anthony Ainley Master laughing, which is a pretty.
Yeah, I
neat
figured it
callback.
was one of them.
Yeah. It'd be really funny if it was Eric Roberts, but no.
I was just thinking that.
Actually, yeah, they have like audio clips, and then there's also a line of like the very first Master Roger Delgado. Apparently, there's a voice clip there. But yeah, just the immediate switch that he manages to pull off is just, like, yeah, like I honestly feel like it is a shame that they got like one of the best, like most critically acclaimed actors working in Britain and only got him for this. Like half of the reason I want to buy War Master is just because he's so good in the 5 minutes he gets in this episode. Like, wow. It is fucking hell. Like, he is one of the most, like just from, like, the 5 minutes, like, I was actually like, Jesus, like, he's actually kind of terrifying.
Yeah, he really is.
Poor Chantho.
Just from those few minutes, he does really sell the, like, superiority sort of thing.
Yeah. And the other reason I want to buy the War Master is because look at this fucking this like new like picture like costume design stuff that they took so they could like put that on the front of box sets. It's pretty swaggin'. But yeah, then he goes in the TARDIS, and I'm surprised, like, okay, one thing that I will say that, like, is a weird plot hole is, literally, canonically, the TARDIS could have fucked with him and stopped him from doing that. Like, the TARDIS, like, even here, where the TARDIS manually decides, like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to lock all the doors and fly to 100 trillion to try and get, like, this fucking Torchwood boy off me. I'm like, you don't do anything when the Master gets in and literally cannibalizes you to make a paradox machine?
Because plot, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have a question about this because I was debating it with one of our fabulous members of the Discord. But when do you think the Doctor knows it's the Master? I'll give my answer. I think he highly suspects, but then he knows right away when he says "say my name," because I think that's only something the Master would do.
No, well, I think in my opinion, I think that as soon as he knows that there's another one, he immediately thinks it's the Master. Because let's be real, what other Time Lord has the ingenuity to survive?
Yeah,
like, yeah, they could have introduced a renegade Time Lord, but I'm pretty sure the Doctor knew that it would have been him.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and then the Master regenerates, and of course, well, actually, yeah, the Master's regeneration sickness might have been off screen, because I think this is actually the first time a Master regeneration has occurred on screen, and the only time I think a Master regeneration has occurred on screen. Because when Saxon regenerates in Doctor Falls, it's implied. They don't ever actually show the full thing.
That makes me curious. Like, I wonder, like the ones we have no idea what killed him. I wonder what got him. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Um. So yeah. Yeah. And this is like a genuinely like who like cliffhanger, especially because like I don't think this was advertised. Like this was like a stealth like oops surprise. Like it was like Haunting of Villa Diodati where it's like surprise. This leads into finale. But yeah. Um. So yeah. I guess then we move on to the Sound of Drums. Uh. Yeah. So I will say like yeah they immediately teleport in, which honestly I wonder like I feel like if this episode might have been a bit might have been a bit more interesting if they didn't open with that, but like yeah. um and then we get the reveal of like it's Saxon, which I'm just gonna say this right here and now. Harold Saxon is absolutely a parody of Tony Blair.
Oh yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it is so obvious. Like it
The
is, yeah,
political commentary is strong. Oh man, I don't know why we voted him for him, but like, he just talked really good, you know?
yeah. No, it is very like base RTD moment. Um, I also love like okay. I think the one thing that I'm going to say that I think makes this version of the character interesting, that's less in End of Time and more here, um, is how I mentioned this earlier about how like Sim Master is like a 4chan shit poster. It's like that same outlook of just like he's a bored, apathetic white boy who just like doesn't give a shit. Like he's so like bored and apathetic that shit's just funny. Like him like fucking around like fucking dancing around to like Scissor Sisters and lip syncing at his like senile doctor bondage slave, or watching Teletubbies on his laptop and laughing, or the fucking thing where he like looks at the camera and is like, this what this country needs is a doctor, and gives like a shit-eating grin to the camera. Or like the thing where he has the fucking journalist killed and there's like the black comedy bit where he opens the door repeatedly and they're still screaming.
that,
Like
that bit was great.
he just
Yeah.
yeah he just like comes off as like a fucking shitposting incel.
He's the
Yeah. I
memer
don't love
master.
this actually. Sim is probably my least favorite iteration
Yeah.
of the incarnations of the Master that I know, and
Yeah, and I think he gets a
I don't
lot
know.
less interesting in End of Time. Like, I think his
Yeah.
characterization here is interesting because of how he's set up as compared to, like, where he's, like, weird, like, zombie person in End of Time. And you definitely get shades of it in, uh, um, the Series 10 finale, too, where he's just, like, fucking around. Like he figures out who Bill is, and he like fucks around with her for the lulz because he knows that it will hurt her and it will hurt the doctor, and like that thing where he very quietly listens to the doctor's like 12's whole impassioned speech and was like, lol, I didn't listen to you, bro, get wrecked by facts and logic.
Yeah, I'll say my bit about Sim here, I guess. To me he just seems like someone who just can't stop, whether
Yeah.
because it's, post Time War or drums, and he's gone. He wants to build his new Toclafane slash new Gallifrey Time Lord army, and maybe I mean I believe him when he says like once I've conquered everything, once my empire stretches the bounds of time, maybe then I'll stop, because he has nothing left
Yeah.
going for him, And
Like it's even like it's almost like the Time War broke him in a different way than it broke the Doctor, whereas the Time War broke the Doctor in the sense that he's damaged, and in the sense that he's like got this huge PTSD and is like a much more like sour or less forgiving figure, whereas the Master, he's just like, well, there's nothing left anymore, so why bother? Like the Master just feels like straw nihilist.
And I like the idea that a lot of his energy that kind of in a very like shallow way matches David Tennant's is mostly just an act or a mask that he puts on. Like when he's talking to the cabinet before he kills them, it's obvious that he knows what he's going to do, and he fucks around because it's fun and because he wants to call them out and because they're humans and they're lesser than him. Yeah. And he probably does it in some ways to like fuck with them psychologically, and I think that works. There's some moments in Simm's performance, particularly in End of Time, it doesn't happen so much here, where it just goes way too far for my tastes.
Yeah.
But
no. End of Time.
This rewatch definitely made me reevaluate
End of Time Simm is like the drums Doctor, and I want to eat people and make the Master race. Whereas here, it's just like I'm so fucking bored, and these drums won't stop.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I don't know, I think this is one of the because plot things. For the life of me, I was trying to think, like, why would he become Prime Minister? And then I thought, well, he wants power. He wants to fuck with the Doctor by fucking with his favorite planet. And since the Doctor fused the coordinates, that's literally the only thing he can do right now.
Yeah, he's like, he's bored enough that he's like, well, guess I'll become Prime Minister. And it's almost like you get this sense almost that, like, while he did it so he could lay a trap for the Doctor when he got back, there's this sense that's like, he's like, yeah, I'll just like take control of the entirety of Great Britain because I'm bored, or because I could do it like this if I really wanted to.
Yeah, and we'll see that bites the Doctor in the ass. The only way he could contain him, which I do think was a good idea, it's like it puts his companion's family in danger, and that's one of the few interesting like plot points.
That's the only interesting thing that happens with Martha's family. The only interesting thing,
which is kind of sad, especially from like a representation point of view, that it's like this family that experiences the most trauma, but it's not even like that, like they literally just spend less time on Martha's family than they do the Tylers, and like admittedly Martha only had a season, but even in series 1, like they spend so much fucking time on like the Tylers as well as Rose in that season. They spend so much fucking time on that. But yeah, no, the scene where he goes into the cabinet and like calls them out for being like backstabbing politicians who only jumped on his bandwagon because he was getting votes, and he gasses them. And the thing where he has to keep taking off the gas mask because the guy doesn't understand him. Like, again, like, I feel like when he's being, like, super manic, I don't get it as much, but when he's here where you just get this sense where he's just, like, this, like, super, like, haughty, like, entitled, bored god. That's, I think, an interesting way of portraying it. And I feel like, in general, like, he gets pigeonholed as manic, and, like, yes, there are things like the drums thing, or like the thing where he's romping around and lip syncing, but like I honestly feel like in a sense that it's not the manicness that's terrifying, it's the fact that he's so like, he's not even manic, he's doing these things that would be considered as manic, but he's so like calm because he just doesn't give a shit, and he knows that he's done everything he needs to do, so he's just like waiting.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just this sort of I mean, the vibe I get from it is, he basically just found out that like everything around him is dead now. Like all the greater powers are dead, and so he's like, what is there to do but be the new greater power?
Yeah. Yeah. There's only one person in the universe anymore who can tell me to stop, and I have him locked up in my dungeon. So, fuck it. I might as well just become the most powerful thing in the universe.
Yeah, because he has that line where he's like, "How did it feel to like destroy the two great races?" And he's like, "You must have felt like a god." And so it really plays into
Yeah.
this whole. He has this sort of obsession in this three-parter where he's just obsessed with like becoming divine, and that's why like the Doctor keeps bringing up his name again and again and again. The Master. He has this desire to be in power, to be the most powerful, to be the master over everything. And so there's really no reason he does all of this other than just he wants to be in power.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
it's
I
interesting
love that
because
phone call
yeah.
between
Yeah, oh yeah, that's
them
that's
both.
one of the best scenes in the episode. And the other thing is I feel like it's interesting how in some sense like I can definitely see how one could make a comparison between Sim Master and the Joker, but then at the same time they're completely different.
Oh yeah. One thing I'd like to touch on is that I don't know, these episodes reminded me of a flavor of like a dynamic that the Doctor has that's somewhat sort of unique that I wish, I don't know. This is a weird tangent, but like there's not a lot of people that can match 10, like actually match 10, or the Doctor in general. Like 9 we kind of see it with the Daleks, and 10 we definitely see it with the Master, and I kind of miss the fact that 11 never got that. Not really. Except for I guess when he meets 10, but yeah, it's just something I was lamenting over.
And of course 12 and Missy constantly spar, and that's one of the
Yeah, exactly. So it's, I don't know, it's a nice, like, it, we shouldn't have it all the time, obviously, because when it happens, that's what makes it special and interesting and awesome and terrifying. But it's something notable, and even as I said, even though Sim is my least favorite master, when he's one on one with the Doctor and he's cutting out all the bullshit, you can feel that bond and that like that intellect and just the fact that they know each other so well over hundreds of years that like no human could ever match that.
yeah. Um Yes, we're introduced to the reporter Vivian Rook. Which, interesting side note, Vivian Rook is also the name. Yet another case of course, we all know RTD is notorious for reusing like names and surnames. Like Tyler, the surname Tyler shows up a lot, but Vivian Rook is also the name of one of the main characters in RTD's like most recent like TV work, which is like a sort of sci-fi drama dystopia thing called Years and Years, where Vivian Rook is played by Emma Thompson and is like a super like almost like Trumpian analog person of just like this like fucking like ridiculous like wealthy person who somehow manages to bungle their way into power. But yeah, that was interesting. Um, but yes, no, and then we get the funny scene where like he orders the Toclafane to kill the reporter, and there's just this. It's such black. Like RTD is so fucking good at black comedy. Like, obviously, like Moffat era has its like haha zinger jokes, but there's nothing like quite as much like black comedy as like RTD, where he has like the scene where the Master just repeatedly opens the door and you can hear her still screaming as she's getting like sliced up by the fucking Toclafane.
It's just like, you said Archangel was absolute. And it's like 100%. And he's like, 99? 99.5?
98? And then the funny thing where he somehow manages to know when the Doctor and Martha are going to... Dr. Jack and Martha are going to be back in Martha's apartment and attach this, like, huge, like, fucking, like, cartoon, like, sticks of dynamite bomb to the back of Martha's TV.
Poetry.
And, like, you totally get the sense that, like, if he actually wanted to kill them, he would have put, like, a small thing of C4 somewhere where no one would have found it. He was just fucking with them.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it is interesting how, like, Martha is, like, just completely doesn't listen to, like, both Ten and Jack being like, no, don't go to your parents' house. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, I think Martha has had it with that, like, second fiddle shit. She's
Yeah.
like, nah, what you did has caused this,
Yeah.
indirectly, but yeah.
I'm tired of your shit. And then we get the great scene with the Doctor and the Master over the phone call, which is probably, like, I think it's the best character scene between the two in the story.
Definitely in this episode, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I do find it funny how the first thing of, like, the Doctor, like, being, like, weirdly incompetent is somehow he forgets the fact that Britain is a fucking surveillance state. Like, you're just wandering around. What are you doing? There are cameras everywhere. I know that, and I don't even live in Britain. Oh yeah, and then we get the best scene in the entire season where he's watching Teletubbies. That's just... Yeah.
And you call humans degenerate when they make art like this.
Yeah. Like, he's just, like, sitting in his office watching fucking Teletubbies on his laptop laughing. That's so good. Like, I think that's one of the most establishing character moments for this Master. Yeah, and then he gets, like, a little narration, the Doctor gets a little narration moment where I think this is, like, the first time they really show off what Gallifrey looked like in the modern series.
Did they visit Gallifrey in the, Oh yeah, they did, huh? I forget there was a trial.
Yeah, no, they go to Gallifrey in Classic, but, like, there's interior stuff only, like, they never showed, like, the exterior like that. And a lot of, like, the ideas, I think, or, like, the aesthetic of, like, what it has looked like ever since is heavily based on, like, RTD era. I do find it funny that it's the same thing, too, of, like, the Timeless Children, where it's, like, single person narrating and there's, like, a montage. But unlike the Timeless Children, it's not 3/4 of the fucking episode.
It also doesn't break open everything we've known for 60 plus years. But
that too.
Yeah. Was, like, the untempered schism thing a thing in Classic at all, or was it just, like, you go to the academy and you, like, become a Time Lord there?
Yeah. And then there's the Torchwood. Doctor figures out Jack is part of Torchwood, and he's like, "No, I reformed it. I swear." And I commented, Jack very clearly leaving out the lots of death, the lots of guns, the stabby murder knife, and the resurrection glove, the sex gas, the cannibals. What else? Oh, and the Cyberwoman. Never forget the Cyberwoman. And the whole teammates opening the rift. But yeah, no, it's funny. And then yes, we get the thing where it's like the Archangel Network, which this is actually a really good thing of like in classic, like one of the Master's like classic tricks was hypnotism, and I like how they kind of update that for like a 21st century. Yeah, like a 21st century like way of doing that.
It seems like a very allegorical, like, the media's always telling you stuff, do this, do that, vote for this person, propaganda, insert candidate here. Yeah, it's a very him way to do that, which is why I don't mind how kind of obvious it is, because it is something so in keeping with him.
Also, while I was watching this, I couldn't keep thinking of like wow, this is like how much of Spyfall is like this, but with like some of the like things filed off and replaced with something else, and some of it like chopped up and moved around. Like, did you realize that when you looked at it? Because like when I really thought about it, I'm like, wow, this is really similar.
Yeah, except the Master, I guess, was a little bit smarter in it by deciding to not be the main face of it. He was just like, I've already done that shit.
Yeah,
I'm tired.
As I said, some of the serial numbers filed off, which of course I think, who is it? Was it Petra who was like, man, I wonder what Dwan Master was thinking about and doing while he was chilling on Earth in the 70 years, because technically Saxon happened then. Sort of. Did he just tune in to live TV that day that they fucking vaporized not George Bush and was like, heh, that was a classic.
Just eating his breakfast, being like, huh, memories.
That one didn't work out.
Good times. But yeah, and then the Doctor pulls out the perception filters, which again, I think the perception filters make sense of like that's how they get into the Valiant. But like once they're in the room with the Master, I'm like, he would have seen through that, and the Doctor should have known that he would have seen through that. But yes, then we are introduced to not George W. Bush, which I have to say, I can't believe how based of RTD it is to have this universe's George W. Bush vaporized and this universe's Tony Blair either be the Master or a dead guy shoved in the cupboard when the Slitheen took over.
It's background noise, but I'm really curious as to how Obama happens after this, because he's president-elect.
Yeah.
Yet Obama is like.
Well, no. What happened is someone actually pointed him out, like, you know that's like not the right term, and he's like, oh, I didn't know that actually. Like RTD literally did not know that president-elect is the term used for the new incoming president who has just been elected. Like RTD literally did not know that. So yes, no, he's supposed to be Bush, like second-term Bush.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense, because I was just like, how the hell do we get Obama from here?
I mean, I guess I understand why they didn't use actual Bush, because Bush gets vaporized, but I find it really funny that they have actually Obama get turned into the Master at End of Time. Like, he literally, like you literally hear him. It's so funny.
Yeah. America is arguably weirder in Doctor Who than it is here, which is a hard feat to pull off, but...
Yeah. But yeah, no, and also, like, how much he's having fun of, like, haha, I got your family, and he's like, hey, guys! When he fucking pulls them out of, like, his, like, secret police van.
We flew them all the way out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was that was a great moment, and again, it shows. I mean, this is the main evidence for me that like a lot of his goofiness is a mask, because he just turns it full up for President Winters, I think is his name. And he does it for the family just to like piss them off. But it's like creepy as hell.
Even the Master hates George W. Bush. Even the Master. It's just a shame that the Toclafane also didn't vaporize this universe's version of Dick Cheney. Because when you think about it, that would have put Cheney in charge for like the last year of, like the last year of Bush's presidency.
That's cursed.
Yeah. Which would have been even worse than Bush.
Also, just saying, but like, it being Bush is kind of ruined by the fact that he actually makes a slightly eloquent speech.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think our present standards are so low that anything sounds eloquent at this point. But
no, it is eloquent compared to Bush. But yeah, no, it's very clearly supposed to be Bush though. So yeah, and then obviously the perception filter doesn't work because it's yes. First off, we have them finding the paradox machine, which again, I can't believe the TARDIS literally just let him do that. Like, there is some Big Finish stuff where the TARDIS fucks with the Doctor, like, hard. But yeah, no. And then there's I love the little throwaway where the Master offers someone a jelly baby, because like RTD knows what he's doing. Actually, yeah, okay. Yeah, and then we have, the like, Master straight up like, why did you think a perception filter is gonna work on me, bro? Like, why? But yeah, I will say, this does kind of, to some extent, do, like, the Series 1 thing, where almost every episode sets up something in some way, which I think is pretty neat, as opposed to just the Series 2 method of just randomly mentioning Torchwood. Like...
Yeah.
Like, introducing Martha, and then Gridlock pulls in the Yana thing, and Lazarus introduces the Sonic thing and mentions Saxon, and and 42 introduces that Martha's family is under surveillance and such, but yeah. Yes, and then the Master rapid ages the Doctor, which, again, I'm realizing that, like, they're just using the old prosthetic from Lazarus and that brief shot in Human Nature. And then, yes, he goes full manic and starts, like, destroying he literally decimating the population.
I like how it's on a whim, too. He just, like, it's just a random, like, what do you think? Decimate? Yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah. And that's her. Yeah, the only time it's used right. And that's our cliffhanger. And then we move into Last of the Time Lords, which I have to say, I think my opening complaint with this this finale is, I feel like this finale is the biggest example of RTD writing himself into something that he can't write himself out of easily without it being super cheap. Because, like, seriously, like, and another thing, because, like, I watched, like, Stu Bagful's video that he did on this recently, and he made the point that, like, this would have been really, like, while there was still been the problem of they would have had to reverse it, because otherwise it would have had too much of a lasting effect on canon, it would have also been so much more interesting if it was, like, spread out over, like, a whole season. Like they do, like with what Prestige TV does now, where they just take an arc and do, like, 8 episodes of that.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I've seen arguments that it's like, oh, this would have made more sense if, like, if the episode covered some of, like, Martha's journey and was kind of just, like, time jumping a bit more.
It's not just Martha's journey too. It's Martha's journey. It's how, like, Saxon getting into power. It's filling in some sort of character for Lucy Saxon, because my other complaint about this episode is this episode I think would have been a lot more interesting if she actually had a character. She has no fucking character. And it sucks because she plays such a pivotal role in the episode, but it's after having done nothing and having had no character for the past 2 hours.
Yeah, and you can see the strains on the script, because there's just some lines that are like, what I didn't come up with this term, but it's called, like, as you know exposition, because it's just like, oh, you're looking for a gun, right? Or there's other examples,
and like the little things of, like, the little thing of, like, how, like, Lucy very clearly has, like, a bruise on one of her eyes, but, like, you don't ever hear about how she met Saxon and how she got all, like, indoctrinated and got in the relationship with him. Like, it's so weird. Like, and I feel like this, just, like, in general, this episode would have been so much more interesting if they spent less time on the gun subplot and more on Lucy Saxon. But the problem is that they don't have time, because the gun subplot is necessary to get Martha to where she needs to go so they can get the Toclafane reveal, and so they can have the shots of her interacting with people, so they can pull the reveal at the end. So there's literally no space for it, and they have to put in pointless bullshit because it needs to be there, because otherwise the plot doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing. Like, in my opinion, once the Toclafane reveal happens, with very few exceptions, pretty much everything after that is, like, better. I even like, kind of like it's like an exposition dump, but how what the humans of the Utopia project created was, like, actually nightmarish, which I forget, because looking back I was like, oh, the master created the Utopia project to be horrible, but no, humans actually just kind of, like, Borgified themselves, except instead of assimilating people because they think it's right, they do it because it's fun.
And because they have nothing else to do. Yeah. Well, I also mentioned that it's, like, bootleg countryside. But yeah, no, it is a surprisingly grim look at the future of humanity from a show that is usually very, very positive on the future of humanity. Like, it's kind of weird that this happens, because supposedly, canonically, this is still the end point of humanity.
Yeah, it's
theoretically.
It's really bleak. Like, honestly, it's like the final conclusion is really things end. The way I'm thinking about it is it's sort of like, I would say, a wrap up to, like, the concept of the Time War, at least for the time being, where it's like, yeah, like, the 2 greatest races in the universe came to an end, and eventually the universe itself is going to come to an end, and you can't science your way around it. It's just going to end.
Yeah. And also, funnily enough, that, like, humans lasted longer than, like, the 2 great races, except basically they did. Humans
Yeah, it's
lasted
one
until
of the more
they
interesting
list,
parts
humans
of
lasted
the
beyond
episode.
until and beyond the heat death of the universe.
Humans are the cockroaches of the universe, basically.
Yeah, yeah. But no, it's like
Basically.
it's a really downer ending for like humanity, because like part of the thing of like the Doctor is like yes, humans go out through the stars and all these positive traits of humanity, but it's still weird that like instead of like them lasting until the end and then the Doctor being like, you know, all things have to end, all things have to die eventually, it's just like no, they just like mutilated themselves and turned into like psychopathic killing machines.
Yeah, it's one of the more, and I forget exactly how the Master says it, but it's like it's desperation, which, you know, it's type of that existential thing that you can't fight, and it changed them into something horrible that the Master could use. And I think the brilliance of it is that the Master didn't really have to do anything. He facilitated the like paradoxical genocide and like to create an empire, but like the humans did that to themselves. um so yeah, that's like the one truly like interesting part, but to get there there's just so much weird exposition, and because plot and Jesus Doctor we'll get there, but yeah.
Yeah. But I do like that we have the intro here of like, I don't know, like maybe it's the Shadow Proclamation, but whatever. They're just like, yeah, Earth's fucked. Don't go to Earth right now, guys. Like it has the same vibes of like the EU being like, yeah, don't travel to the US right now. They're really not handling this pandemic thing well. Like that's what it feels like, just on a bigger scale. And then of course, obviously, like there's the thing with where Martha's introduced, and it's 1 year later, and she's fully gone full badass, which unfortunately happens all off screen because Martha is consistently like one of the best, but doesn't get nearly as much time to show off as Rose.
That needs to be a big finish arc. Like, Freema Agumon still sounds the same. She even still looks relatively young. You could do a whole like Derek Jacobi thing, like make up a new outfit for her.
I just want more Martha on TV, man. Like she's probably not going to come back as a companion, but like I would just like to have her be like more than one season and a couple of guest appearances. Like I'd watch the Martha show, even if the Doctor wasn't in it. I'd watch the Martha show. And then the Master comes out and does his funny little dance to Scissor Sisters, I Can't Decide, and is totally just like shit posting again. Which apparently was completely cut from the Netflix version of the episode because they shortened it to 45 minutes. What the fuck? That's like the best scene in this episode, mainly because I don't like this episode. But yeah, I do know, the one thing that I will say that I like about this episode is how the Doctor is set up of like, I'm just gonna say this one thing to you, and the Master's like, no, you don't get to talk. No.
Yeah, that's a good through line.
And like once you realize what the thing he has to say is, it almost recontextualizes the whole thing of like thinking about like how he acts. Because it's interesting of like, do you think he knows that he's running from the Doctor saying I forgive you, and like he knows that, and like part of the reason why he's running is because he doesn't want to be forgiven? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, on a thematic level, it's very much like, obviously it's much more horrible than this, but it's like if you've pushed your friend away for a long time and you've said horrible things, but you still forgive them because they're your friend. Now, usually that person hasn't put themselves up as a dictator and like killed 1/10 of the population, but we're talking about like thematic analysis
and turned
here,
you into an old man. But yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the more I guess, interesting parts. Again, the episode gets better when Martha is on screen and when it focuses on the Doctor and the Master, which is a shame because there's a lot of other good stuff that could happen as well. But I'll take what I can get.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a throwaway line here where Martha's like, yeah, he even put his face on Mount Rushmore, and man, am I disappointed they didn't CGI that one. I wanted to see that just so I could laugh at it.
It's just all the faces are replaced with him.
Yeah. So then we get this. The weird thing of like, what the hell was the point of this revolution attempt, and why was the Doctor in on it? Because you feel like he'd be like, no, I already have a plan.
It's just so weird.
Yeah,
The plan does not make
this is
sense.
the whole. Go
The
ahead.
plan doesn't make sense at all because it's like he would have had to know about the countdown when he whispered like 3 words in Martha's ear. I'm just confused.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't fucking know.
Because plot.
Yeah.
I can tell you why that fake.
Yeah, the only reason that
or
fake
plan happens.
Yeah, the only reason that fake plan happens is so they can have Dobby 10.
Okay, this is the only part of the episode that I actually dislike / hate.
It's fucking
because there's
bad.
no reason to do that.
It's stupid. It
goofy
looks
as
bad.
Hell.
It looks bad.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I wouldn't have
Why
liked it.
does he have big eyes? Why does he have big eyes?
Why does he still sound like David Tennant? That just makes me not take it seriously at all. And number two, you could just have him like be like some sort of like Gollum, like further emaciated thing. But no, they just do, 1.5 foot tall
Dobby.
old David Tennant like.
And the funny thing is how the first time, like when they age him, they show that like he's gotten so small that he's shrunk out of his clothes, and then they make a little suit for him. But when he gets like reinstated and goes full like Jesus Christ superstar, he fucking like somehow the suit magically grows with him. I mean, the real answer is RTD or the BBC are cowards enough that they wouldn't allow full dong to be shown, but.
How can you say the human race is degenerate when they can fully enlarge my clothes?
Hello, it's Dr. Dong here to check up on a patient. I'm telling you, this whole episode...
10 p.m.
This whole episode is just desiring to be a porn.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is I feel like RTD had to exercise the most restraint to not just write in and this is where they start fucking into the script.
He's just like, he was so tempted, he's like, I gotta make him older. I gotta make him older.
Yeah, because otherwise it would just...
So yeah, then they take down the Toclafane with the electricity pulse, and as I said, like I swear, it's just like discount Countryside. It's literally the same twist. Of like, why are you killing all of us? Because it's fun. It's the same twist. It's just slightly more sci-fi now.
I do think it works because a lot of them, like, their voice is very childish. It, like, works in a very, like... And again, I think it would be more interesting because they're basically kind of discount Borg in how they, like, cannibalize themselves. So it's more interesting than, like, we have to make everything like us.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it is a repeated trope.
So yeah, and then they bring up the gun plot, which at least RTD had the foresight to realize that the gun plot is stupid because A, it's a weird MacGuffin hunt, and B, 10 would never ask Martha to kill someone.
Also, do you really think Unit or Torchwood would ever be able to get the materials to actually kill a Time Lord?
Yeah, like what kind of chemicals are in there?
One of them is aspirin.
Sir, how do you kill a Time Lord? Quick, we need to inject him with lean.
It's just filled with gravy.
Damn it.
Oh no, he drank too much purple drink. He can't regenerate now.
It's the McDonald's Szechuan sauce.
Oh my god. Oh. Jesus. Okay.
We're back.
So yeah, Martha does the thing of like, yeah, telling about the doctor. And then they have Martha come out. And obviously, like, yeah. No, you can tell that, like, it's very obvious that she planned this all along because she doesn't even, like, the only time she flinches is when the Master kills Tom, and that's only because she didn't expect it. Like, everything else, she is absolutely fine about going to her death. Because she's not. But no. And then we get to, as I posted in the Discord, Last of the Time Lords at 34 minutes and 19 seconds, we have Jesus Doctor Liftoff. I repeat, we have Jesus Doctor Liftoff.
He literally does the T-pose and just floats over it. It's such a weird ending. Like...
Yeah, no, this is the most blatant, like, RTD, like, oh shit, I wrote in over my head, how do I get out?
They just
power
say...
of prayer, Jesus Doctor.
They say his name a bunch, and the Doctor tapped into the field and has telepathy and reverses his age because...
Like, how the hell does the telepathic field allow him to do any of that?
I don't know.
Because plot. Here's the thing I will say, though. I think this is less egregious, for whatever reason. It's probably just personal preference. I think this is in a less egregious, like, Christ imagery than in the Voyage of the Damned.
Well, but Voyage of the Damned is Panto, and they absolutely know how ridiculous they're being in that occasion. Like,
Fair
that's
enough.
supposed to be stupid.
My only complaint is that it goes on for far too long. I think the blue glowy and floaty stuff should have stopped, like, either right after he disarmed the Master with the sonic laser, or when that line, I've been, like, memeing on it all episode, but the whole, like, you call humans degenerate when they can do this. Like, after that, he should have been, like, on the ground, no T-posing, but instead it's just, like, it's too self-indulgent, I think, is my problem with it. I don't really care about the whole telepathic thing. Like, that at least makes sense to me. It's just kind of... They got caught up and they got lost in the sauce.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, like, the weird thing that happens where, like, after that, and he does the I forgive you, they just teleport to, like, stand on a random hill, even though, like, he's already won for, like, 30 seconds. And the Doctor's like, the one thing you can't do, kill yourself, when the Master literally happens in, like, 2 minutes. That exact thing happens. And it's just like, man, it would have been really nice if you could have, like, taken those 2 minutes and tried to give Lucy Saxon a character.
Rip. I I do like that line though, because I think it speaks to, because I think the Doctor would normally be right, but this is again, drums are as worst as they've ever been. It's post Time War. There's literally nowhere else for him to go. If he's being imprisoned with him, even if it's not cruel, because I don't think the Doctor would be, he'd keep it nice. This isn't Missy.
Yeah.
Like he's absolutely like, no, I'm done. I'd never kill myself, but you know, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's this what was I gonna say? I will say that when I was thinking about it, I thought like the winding back time thing was stupid, and no, it actually makes sense that if they destroy the thing keeping the paradox intact, the universe just kind of sorts itself out and goes, nope, that didn't happen, because that was the only thing allowing the paradox to occur. I mean, the
Yeah.
real question is where the fuck were the Reapers, but shush. The Reapers only
The
exist
paradox
in that
machine
one episode.
keeps them from
Shush.
showing up. It's fine.
Yeah, shush. And then
The Reapers just vor the Master.
But no, I will say, like, it's very disappointing because, like, obviously when you have this something like that, and the monks trilogy does the exact same thing where they just ass pull of like everything has to go back to normal now, guys. It almost makes me wonder if they had set this like at some point, like vaguely in the future, if they would have been able to go farther. Because obviously the status quo has to be restored because it has to be normal England, normal world.
I mean, it's still a... See, that's what I don't get. Like, at what point do they stop remembering all the alien stuff in the first few seasons?
I don't know. Supposedly it's supposed to do with the crack in time, but after that's finished, I don't know. They just, they hand wave it. They just keep forgetting it, I guess. But yes, no. Then, the homoeroticism continues its peak, where the Master literally dies in Ten's arms, as like he's crying and like screaming and like punching the floor. And then yeah, everything resets. Jack is like, "Lol, I'm the face of Bow Guys," and dips. And Martha's like, "You know what? Fuck you. I'm done. I'm sick of being your rebound. Go find someone else. I'm sick of your shit." Which is a shame, but understandable. I wish she had more, but whatever.
So here's a terrible question. If Rose and her mom and let's say Mickey like all went through this, do you think she'd be like, I can't leave them again. They've gone through too much trauma, or do you think she'd be like, well, back in this box?
Nope. No, she wouldn't. She would not. She would have not given a shit. She'd be like, all right, let's go. She absolutely. Well,
yeah, that's
I mean,
an easy one.
It would have been really nice if RTD wrote it so she was, but no. No way. And then there's the stinger for the Titanic and Voyage of the Damned, which that's some stanky CGI. And yeah, that's the 3-parter. Any thoughts before we move on to ratings? All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. On the whole, I feel like I think Skylar made a point earlier in our like private backroom DM, which made the point that like the series 2 finale is better written than this, but despite the fact that like decent chunks of this are kind of bad, it's still more entertaining. Like overall, I think Utopia is like a lot of the plot is just there to like keep things going so we can have like the last 5 minutes of the episode, and Last of the Time Lords is atrocious. But but I still think it's a fun, entertaining watch. So I'd give the story overall like a 6 or a 7, because it was still entertaining, and I would give like Utopia a 5, and the only reason it gets off with a 5 is because of how god tier Kino Poggers swag Derek Jacobi is. Sound of Drums gets like an 8 and is like overall like the best episode of the 3, and Last of the Time Lords gets like a 4.
Yeah, I would generally overall agree with that assessment. To me, where the series 3 finale succeeds, where series 2 fails, is the emotion of it, the character of it. Just even if I'm not the hugest fan of Simm, he works well with the cast, particularly with Tennant. So there's a lot going for it, even if a lot of stuff just sort of happens because it has to happen. And there's enough like clever or interesting bits to get it by, whereas as interesting as Daleks and Cybermen facing off, that's not that doesn't really follow through. So I would definitely say the series 3 finale is my second favorite of the one we've covered so far, with series 1 being at the top, of course. Utopia for me gets a 6. Jacobi is god tier, and I like a lot of stuff there that's basically not the future kind. So yeah, 6. Sound of Drums gets an 8 because again, it's the most solid and it has a lot of genuine like tension and good shit. I know, very specific. And then Last of the Time Lords again kind of falls, even though there's some great stuff there. I'd put it back at a 6. Not quite as low as you had it, Geoff, but yeah, overall, I guess as a story, if I averaged all that out to like the 3 episode arc, I'd give it about a 7.
Yeah, I think. Let me think. I would say Utopia is like a 6, because it doesn't really do anything too great, but it doesn't really fumble anything. I feel like it does what it needs to, so it's all right. It gets you to the next episode. Um, Next episode is God, I can't remember. End of Time, I think. Is that's what it's called? No, that's a different one. What's the second episode called? I can't remember. Sound of Drums. That's right. I would say that one is like. I would say it's around a 7. It's all right. It does what it, it's same deal. It does what it thinks to. It's a little bit more engaging just because then you really get the master fucking around. You get a lot of good master moments. So I'd say it ends up at around a 7. Last one is just kind of a mess. I mean, okay, it's kind of a mess, but in a way that's kind of entertaining. So you can forgive it somewhat.
Yeah, no, it's entertainingly a mess, but it's still a mess.
So it's like a 5. So overall, I'd say like a 6.
Yeah. So yeah. And I guess moving on to our end of series rankings and ratings. I think like overall in terms of ranking out of the 3, this is right in the middle. It is probably like the closest of consistent, like it's closer to series 1 in terms of consistency of like there's only like one trash episode, and most of the filler episodes aren't as meh as series 2's, and it hits really hard when it needs to, and Martha is just better than Rose, but yeah, series 1 is still the best one that we've covered, and might end up being like, is still probably going to be in my top 3 for the rest of time. In terms of like favorite episodes, for my top 5 ranking, and I guess favorite stories for my top 5 ranking, I'm gonna say that at number 5 I'm gonna do the Daleks 2-parter. At number 4 I'm going to do Smith and Jones. At number actually no, sorry, let's I'm gonna swap that around actually. Number 5 is gonna be Lazarus. Number 4 is going to be the Daleks 2-parter. Wait. What the fuck? Hold on. I'm having a moment. I'm having a serious gamer moment. No, okay, right. Sorry, I was right the first time. Sorry. Number 5 is Daleks 2-parter. Number 4 is Smith and Jones. Number 3 is Gridlock. Number 2 is Blink. And best story of the season is obviously Human Nature, Family of Blood.
It's actually the Shakespeare Code. Okay.
Shakespeare Code gets its own special award for absolute trash. The first absolute trash episode of the show that has like. Did Discord just?
Are we all doing?
Out?
Oh. Are we all doing our top?
Yeah. No. Yeah. You can go next. Sorry, Discord like dropped out for a second. That was weird.
A gamer moment too. So, at 5, I would probably put 42. I think. Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's mid tier. It's enjoyable, and then I'd put the Daleks 2-parter right there. After that, I would put Smith and Jones at number 3. Number 2 is Blink, and number 1 is the Family of Blood, Human Nature, that whole 2-parter.
All right, I would say my number 5 would be Smith and Jones. Number 4 would be Daleks 2-parter. Number 3, Gridlock. Number 2, Blink, and then obviously number 1, Family of Blood.
All right. Yeah. That makes sense. I love how we all use the exact same episodes, just in different positions.
Yeah, I mean that's not the first time that's happened.
Yeah, like we're all like pretty universally like, yeah, these are the best ones from the season. So yeah, next week we're going to be talking about the 2008 Christmas special, the 2007 Christmas special, Voyage of the Damned, and the first episode of Torchwood Series 2, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. At some point coming out, we're going to be recording it soon, but at some point, I don't know exactly when it's going to come out, because it's going to depend on what Patreon tier you are and how long it takes me to edit. We are going to be discussing the 7th Doctor story, Remembrance of the Daleks, as our second bonus episode. I guess before we go into the outro, I just want to say thanks to everyone who has been listening. We've now done, I think, 32 episodes of the show, so we've basically been doing this for like 35 weeks when you count in breaks and everything. And yeah, I'm surprised that we've all managed to like keep at this for as long as we have, but it's been a lot of fun and has really like for real got me into the show in like the biggest way that I have since I was very young. So yeah, thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone listening. Thanks to our Patreon supporters and the people we talk to the most on Discord, Petra and Emma. And of course, thank you to my co-hosts, Skylar and Avery, who without them I probably still wouldn't be going. So yeah. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at B2TARDISPod. You can support us on Patreon for perks like listening in to us recording live, getting access to episodes early, and getting access to bonus episodes up to a full week before they release to the public. You can follow me on Twitter at WheelyDL.
I am Skylar. I am absolutely so grateful for all the listens, all the views, everyone who's interacted with the podcast or with us at all. That's been super awesome, and I couldn't predict any of it. I'm super grateful for all of it. You can follow me on Twitter at skyhigh9_5.
I'm Avery, and I'm eating melon. You can follow me. I'm BigFatPenis69 on Twitter.com.
And we will see you all next week.